September 21st, 2025, 19:01 hours Moscow time. Right now, in a luxury resort overlooking the Black Sea, Russia's military elite are raising champagne glasses, toasting, planning, laughing. They have 41 seconds left to live. Here's what makes this moment extraordinary. The attack about to hit them costs less than a used Toyota Camry. The defense is trying to stop it. Over $70 million in radar systems, fighter jets, and surface-to-air missiles. 6 small drones versus the entire might of Russia's Crimean air defense network. This isn't science fiction. This happened. And what you're about to witness changes everything we thought we knew about modern warfare. Because in 41 seconds, David isn't just going to beat Goliath, he's going to do it for the price of a luxury sedan. Let me take you back 6 hours. September 21st, 2025. 1 p.m. Somewhere on Ukrainian-controlled territory, a team of specialists is preparing for what will become one of the most audacious strikes of the war. The target? The Foros Sanatorium. Now, before you picture a peaceful medical spa, understand what this place really is. The Foros complex sits on the southernmost tip of Crimea, perched on cliffs overlooking the Black Sea. It's surrounded by 4 state-owned dakas, exclusive retreats reserved for Russia's political and military elite. This isn't a vacation spot. It's a command center disguised as a resort. Russian President Vladimir Putin has stayed here multiple times. The FSB, Russia's Federal Security Service, uses nearby facilities for operational planning. And according to Ukrainian intelligence, on the evening of September 21st, very important guests were scheduled to attend a private event. The restaurant was closed for a special service. Now, here's the tactical problem. Foros is one of the most heavily defended locations in occupied Crimea. It sits in a bubble of overlapping air defense systems. Pantsir-S1, batteries with radar coverage extending 40 kilometers. S-400 long-range systems protecting the entire peninsula. Su-30 fighter jets on 5-minute alert at nearby Belbek Air Base. Spetsnaz patrol teams with thermal optics and drone killer weapons. Electronic warfare systems capable of jamming signals across a 5-mile radius. Combined value of these defenses? Over $70 million. Attacking this target conventionally would require cruise missiles costing millions each, with no guarantee of success. Ukraine had something different in mind. 6 drones. Total cost? Approximately $30,000. Not $30 million. $30,000. Each one smaller than a backpack. Each one capable of flying for 15 minutes at speeds up to 150 kilometers per hour. These are not the sleek, expensive military drones you've seen in documentaries. They're FPV, first-person view, drones. Think high-end racing quadcopters modified to carry explosive payloads instead of cameras. Built by Ukrainian companies like First Contact using commercially available parts, plastic frames, consumer-grade motors, gaming headset controllers. And yet, what they're about to accomplish will be studied in military academies for decades. 18:30 hours, 90 minutes before impact. The strike team arrives at their launch position. Location classified, but likely within 30 to 40 kilometers of the target, the maximum effective range of their drones. Here's something critical to understand. These operators aren't flying blind. Ukrainian intelligence has been watching the Foros complex for weeks. Satellite imagery, signal intercepts, pattern of life analysis. They know when shifts change, when security patrols rotate, when the radar operators take their breaks. Modern warfare isn't about brute force anymore. It's about information. And right now, Ukraine knows something Russia doesn't. That special service event at the restaurant? It's scheduled for 19:30 hours. A gathering of military decision-makers, officers who approve strikes on Ukrainian cities, planners who design operations targeting civilian infrastructure. This isn't revenge. It's operational necessity. In asymmetric warfare, you can't match your enemy's resources. You have to target their decision-making apparatus, cut off the head, paralyze the body. And there's a secondary objective. Foros sits near the sea lanes used by merchant ships carrying Ukrainian grain exports. the economic lifeline Russia has been trying to strangle since day one of the invasion. Demonstrating that Ukraine can strike high-value targets deep in occupied Crimea sends a message. The Black Sea isn't Russia's lake anymore. 1900 hours, 30 minutes to launch. The 6 drones are powered up. Flight checks completed. Operators don their FPV goggles, the same equipment used by drone racing enthusiasts, now repurposed for war. Each pilot sees through their drone's camera in real time. Low latency, high precision. But here's the problem. Flying FPV drones in ideal conditions, clear weather, no interference, is already difficult. Professional racing pilots train for years to master the controls. Now imagine doing it while Russian electronic warfare systems are actively trying to jam your signal, while fighter jets are scrambling to intercept you, while anti-aircraft guns are filling the sky with explosive shells. And imagine knowing that one mistake, one wrong input, one moment of hesitation could doom not just your drone, but the entire mission. This is what the 6 Ukrainian operators are facing. In a secure location, wearing VR-style goggles, gripping controllers with sweaty palms, they wait for the final go-ahead. 1912 hours. The mission commander gives the order. Launch. 6 small shapes lift off into the twilight. They don't fly high. They don't fly straight. They're hugging terrain, using hills and buildings as cover, staying below radar detection altitude. Each one is carrying approximately 3.3 kilograms of explosive payload, grenades, shaped charges, whatever the mission requires. Not much by military standards, but delivered with precision, it's more than enough. 1917 hours, 5 minutes into the flight. A Russian Spetsnaz patrol team spots something on their thermal scope. A small heat signature, moving fast. The operator raises his weapon, a specialized anti-drone gun that fires concentrated electromagnetic pulses. Point, fire. One of the Ukrainian drones drops from the sky, its circuits fried. On the ground, the Russian soldier grins. Kill confirmed. He radios it in. What he doesn't realize, that drone was the decoy. Its job was to draw attention, to make Russian defenses reveal their positions. Cost of that drone? About $8,000. Value of the information it just provided? Priceless. The remaining 5 drones adjust course, vectoring away from the compromised approach. But now, Russian radar operators are alert. Something's happening. 1923 hours. A Pantsir-S1 battery near Yalta lights up. Radar tracking multiple small contacts. The system's computer is screaming warnings. Small, fast-moving objects. Potential threat. Commands are shouted. Missiles hot. A surface-to-air missile ignites. Accelerates to Mach 3. Streaks toward one of the detected drones. The Ukrainian operator sees it coming on his display. A blip, closing fast. He has 1 second to make a decision. Dodge? Impossible. The missile's too fast. Decoy? No countermeasures available. There's only one option. He dumps altitude. Hard. The drone drops like a stone, disappearing into ground clutter. The radar shadow created by terrain and buildings. The missile's seeker loses lock. It overshoots, detonating harmlessly in empty air. 4 drones remain, but they're running out of time. Battery life on these FPVs is only 15 minutes maximum. They've been airborne for 11 minutes. They have 4 minutes to reach target, or this entire operation fails. 1926 hours. Air raid sirens wail across Sevastopol, and Su-30 fighter jet screams off the runway. Afterburners cutting through the dusk. $50 million of airborne Predator versus 4 plastic quadcopters. This shouldn't even be a contest. But the Ukrainian operators have one advantage. The fighter pilot doesn't. They're not trying to win a dogfight. They're trying to disappear. The drones split formation. 2 dive low, hugging the Foros cliffs, using the terrain to mask their radar signature. The Su-30 pilot is furious. He's chasing ghosts. Every time he locks a target, it vanishes. He's carrying missiles designed to shoot down other jets, overkill for tiny drones. And he can't fire anyway. Not this close to the Dakas. Not without risking hitting Russian Vive IPs. Russia plays its next card. 1928 hours. Electronic warfare systems activate. A blanket of jamming fills the airspace. Powerful radio interference designed to sever the connection between the operators and their drones. In Ukraine, the control screens fill with static. For 30 agonizing seconds, the link is lost. The operators are flying blind. One of the pilots, call sign 13, according to later interviews, describes this moment. You feel helpless. Your hands are on the controls, but you can't see anything. You don't know if your drone is still flying or if it's already crashed. All you can do is hold steady. Trust your last commands and pray. But here's the brilliant part. The drones don't need constant input. They're running AI-assisted navigation, inertial guidance systems that track every movement through internal gyroscopes. GPS? Jammed. Radio link? Cut. But physics? You can't jam physics. The drones fly on, guided by sensors that feel every turn, every acceleration, compensating automatically. 98% accuracy, even in complete electronic darkness. 1929 hours. The jamming stops. Can't run it continuously without interfering with Russian communications. The control links snap back online. All 4 drones are still airborne, still on course. 1 minute to target, 1930 hours, 15 seconds. Inside the Foros sanatorium, the special service event is in full swing. Russian military officers, defense officials, civilians who profit from the war machine, toasting, planning. One of them glances at his phone, sees a notification. Air defense alert. He dismisses it. Happens all the time. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones. Nuisance raids. The defenses always stop them. 1930 hours, 41 seconds. 4 Ukrainian FPV drones emerge from the cliff shadows. They're not attacking in formation. They're converging, coming from 4 different directions simultaneously. Russian air defense tries one last desperate move. The Pantsir's 30mm cannons open up. 5,000 rounds per minute. Literally a wall of steel filling the sky. Tracer fire lights up the darkness. Explosions everywhere. 1 drone is hit, disintegrates in midair. 3 remain. The lead drone's operator sees the target in his goggles. The main hall's glass ceiling. Heat signatures from the gathering below. His crosshairs align. He releases control. The other 2 operators do the same. 3 drones. 3 different approach angles. Impact in 3, 2, 1. According to Russian authorities, 3 people were killed, 16 injured, several facilities on the complex damaged, a school building nearby affected by debris. What they don't mention, the main event hall, the one hosting that special service gathering, took direct hits. The electromagnetic pulse from the explosions temporarily disabled local radar systems. Russian air defenses, which had been tracking every second of the attack, suddenly went blind. And in that window of darkness, the remaining Ukrainian drones that had been circling as decoys quietly slipped away, returning to their launch points. The material damage to the Foros complex is significant but repairable. The psychological impact? Immeasurable. For 2.5 years of this war, Russian military and political leadership had felt safe in occupied Crimea, protected by layers of air defenses, shielded by distance. Now they know. Nowhere safe. Not their bases. Not their headquarters. Not even their luxury retreats. So what really happened here? Let's break down the economics. Ukrainian investment. 6 FPV drones. Approximately $30,000 total. Operators. Training. Salaries. Already sunk cost. Intelligence. Satellite signals. Shared military resource. Total marginal cost of operation. Approximately $30,000. Russian expenditure. 1 surface-to-air missile fired. Approximately $200,000 Su-30 fighter sortie. Fuel. Maintenance. Approximately $50,000. Electronic warfare system operation. Approximately $25,000 per hour. Pantsir ammunition expended. Approximately $100,000 plus. Total defensive cost. Approximately $375,000 plus damaged infrastructure, $5 to $10 million. Loss of key personnel, incalculable. Degraded operational security. Ongoing cost. This is asymmetric warfare in its purest form, not matching force with force, but using creativity, intelligence, and precision to multiply the impact of limited resources. And here's what makes this terrifying for conventional military powers. This technology isn't exclusive. It isn't exotic. Every component in those Ukrainian FPVs can be bought online. The motors, the controllers, the flight computers, all commercially available. What makes them weapons isn't the hardware, it's the software, the tactics, the training, and most importantly, the will to innovate under pressure. This isn't just a Ukraine story. We're seeing similar patterns globally. Houthi rebels using drones to attack Saudi oil facilities. Azerbaijan defeating Armenian armor with Turkish-made loitering munitions. ISIS using commercial quadcopters as improvised bombers. The era of military supremacy through expensive, exquisite weapon systems is ending. We're entering the age of swarm warfare, of mass-produced, AI-assisted, expendable platforms that achieve through quantity and creativity what they lack in individual capability. A single F-35 fighter costs $80 million. For that price, Ukraine could field 2,500 FPV attack drones. Which is the better investment? Here's what keeps military planners awake at night. What happens when this technology proliferates further? When not just state actors, but non-state groups, insurgencies, even terrorist organizations have access to these capabilities. When a few $1,000s can breach defenses that cost millions to build. The Foros strike isn't just a tactical victory, it's a preview of the future. Dawn breaks over the Black Sea on September 22nd. The Foros sanatorium is still standing but scarred. Smoke drifts from damaged buildings. In Ukraine, the operators who flew those drones are already preparing for the next mission. One of them, that same 13 from earlier, later said in an interview, "We don't celebrate victories. Every successful strike just means we get to fight another day. That's the only victory that matters." So what's the lesson from the Foros strike? It's not about drones. It's not even about Ukraine versus Russia. It's about how warfare is fundamentally changing. How the biggest doesn't always win. How the smartest often does. How a group of determined people with limited resources but unlimited creativity can take on a superpower and make them blink. September 21st, 2025 wasn't just another day in a long war. It was the day a $30,000 strike broke through $70 million in defenses. It was the day modern asymmetric warfare showed its full potential. And it's a day that every military planner, every defense strategist, every person trying to understand the future of conflict needs to study. Because the rules have changed, and they're never changing back. Here's my question for you. If you were commanding that air defense network, knowing what you know now, how would you defend against a swarm of cheap drones? Is there even an effective defense, or has the balance fundamentally shifted? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and the best insights shape future episodes. If this kind of deep dive military analysis is your thing, hit subscribe. Next episode, the Neptune Strike. How Ukraine turned Russia's Black Sea flagship, the Moskva, into an artificial reef using a weapon Russia claimed was impossible to build. We've got satellite footage, we've got intercepts of the Russian crew's final radio calls, and we've got an engineer who worked on the Neptune program willing to talk. It's the untold story of the war's most iconic naval loss. Plus, I'll show you exactly how that missile evaded Russia's supposedly impenetrable air defense system. Spoiler. It involved a tactic borrowed from 1980s video games. You won't want to miss it. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and never underestimate the power of creative thinking.